First, a peace summit aimed at uniting global opinion on how to end Moscow's invasion in Ukraine has wrapped up in Switzerland. The first of its kind, the two-day conference in Bürgenstock brought together leaders and delegations from more than 90 countries, including US Vice President Kamala Harris. It was not, however, attended by Russia or China. Well, a joint declaration released following the talks called for Ukraine's territorial integrity to be respected and agreed that dialogue between all parties is needed for a lasting settlement. Well, for more, we can bring in our correspondent Gulliver Cragg, who's standing by for us in Kyiv. Gulliver, what are the main takeaways from this unprecedented summit, and can Ukraine call the summit a success?
Well, I think on the basis of the fact that 56 countries sent their heads of state or government and 30 sent foreign ministers or a similar level, the number of countries represented is pretty impressive, though it's slightly less than half the world if you take the 193 countries that have votes in the United Nations General Assembly. So it falls slightly short of Ukraine's ambition. And also they very much wanted China to participate, and the Chinese refused to participate. And according to the Ukrainians, tried to persuade some countries not to participate. Nevertheless, the turnout is pretty strong, and it means that there will have been a lot of media coverage of Ukraine in all the countries that sent representatives. And, you know, that includes most countries in Latin America, several of the biggest countries in Africa, countries that are far from Europe, where, of course, media coverage of what's going on in Ukraine is pretty constant anyway. Now, they came up with this final declaration with somewhat watered down language compared to what Ukraine would have wanted, but not as watered down as had been mooted in the weeks leading up to the conference. Some early drafts were leaked that showed the language much more watered down than Ukraine wanted. But it doesn't talk about Russian aggression in Ukraine. It talks about Russia's war in Ukraine. And although it does call for the respect of territorial integrity, it does not say it straight in terms of something like Ukraine's territorial integrity must be restored. It talks more about the principles of respecting the United Nations Charter. You can see that every word in that declaration was chosen very carefully in order to try to get as many countries as possible on board. And nevertheless, only 80 of the 92 countries present signed it. Notably, Saudi Arabia, India, Brazil were among the big countries that did not sign that declaration. Though Saudi Arabia has expressed an interest in hosting a second summit where everybody seems to be saying the Russian side could be invited.
Right, Gulliver Cragg reporting for us there from Kyiv. Thank you so much for that update.